Brother from the Same Planet is one of the most uncanny valley Simpsons episodes of the classic era. Maybe it's just me, but there's something that has always felt off about this one. Not off in a bad way, because spoiler warning, I think this is a good episode, but it's full of creative decisions that the series doesn't typically go for, almost like it's a Season 1 episode produced in Season 4. It's this package of offbeat references and unique one-off jokes that makes this quite the odd duck. Of course, maybe I have this impression because of how Act 1 is constructed. They immediately throw the audience into a brand new scenario, Bart playing for a soccer team coached by Nelson's dad. A Nelson's dad who is actually nice to his kid, what a concept! It's refreshing how little preamble they include, that they don't have to draw out Act 1 by establishing Bart's extracurriculars. It's like, they need something for Homer to drop the ball on, let's have Bart at soccer. Then it's followed by a fairly odd and almost sinister set of jokes. A Barton Fink shout-out, a female Homer doppelganger, a flying nun exploding, Milhouse creepily writing, "Trab-you-sip," a rumpus room sighting, Homer's fantasy of finding Bart's skeleton, the ice cream melting on his head, this horrifying image. These are all generally good jokes, that Milhouse cutaway in particular is a classic, but back to back to back to back to back, it creates an unusual vibe, almost like it's a treehouse segment building up to Bart cursing Homer or something. I will say though, I love the Homer TV jokes back at home with "I'm on my way" and that cavalcade of Bart reminders he just can't see. Reminds me a lot of that Bobo sequence in Rosebud, just an even more direct version. Also, as the Simpsons house guy on YouTube, I have to point out that they moved the TV room to make this joke work. In fact, I think that whole front living room totally disappears in this episode. Here's the TV room near the foyer once again. Also, why is Homer watching a puppet show? Oh, wait a minute, the room is back again. See, even at an architectural level, this episode is Uncanny Valley. Anyway, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Act 1 does a great job setting up Bart's anger toward Homer. They spend plenty of time showing Bart's misery. It's very Bart the Murderer in this regard. It puts Bart at his lowest point before he can start turning things around. This episode wouldn't be as fun if it were Bart taking advantage of the Bigger Brothers program out of malice or boredom. By pouring on so much sympathy, we can get on the Homer sucks bandwagon and enjoy the ride. Unfortunately, I've always felt a little underwhelmed by Tom as a character. He has an awesome intro, and he's suitably wholesome for his role in the story, but they do struggle a bit in finding funny things for him to say. It's mostly straightforward bonding moment, and that joke about him signing a form saying he wouldn't kiss Bart. Fairly bland straight man material. And compounding this, I feel like Phil Hartman is miscast in this role. Like, I love Phil Hartman, he's obviously always so amazing, but I don't think his voice is especially suited to this all-American Golden Boy character. It's an odd fit. He's always excelled in these slicker and sarcastic roles, like Lionel Hutz and Troy McClure. They had originally written this role for Tom Cruise, who declined, so this is clearly a case of the producers trying to turn lemons into lemonade. Even still, as much as I question the casting, I do love Hartman's reading of "The Drunken Gambler." I don't think anyone could have gotten a bigger laugh out of that line. I think the Homer and Peppy stuff fares better, since Homer is a fantastic comedic foil in general. I love the way he inadvertently smacks Peppy into that ceiling pipe, his long ramble about Jerry the Cowboy and Alan the Cowboy. Even just the way Homer contradicts Tom's fun fact about whales. It's so good. Also, special shout out to this weird grapefruit thing. I eventually found out what this is referencing, but even today, it hits me like a weird non sequitur joke. Boom, grapefruit. With the incessant references and cutaways, this is such a Season 4 episode. Its stylistic fingerprints are all over this thing. There is barely any plot points to the actual story. It's mostly characters hanging out and introing some funny reference the writers want to do. I implore everyone to watch this afterward and keep an eye out for this dynamic. It's like, Bart's sad about Homer, time to watch Tuesday Night Live. Plot relevant commercial, back to Tuesday Night Live. Tom and Bart have finished working out, Now let's go to Ren and Stimpy. Homer visits Peppy, let's watch Itchy and Scratchy. Skinner needs to briefly talk to Marge, but enough of that, here comes the Psycho House. Even the big fight scene at the conclusion, they have to cut away to Kent Brockman reporting on it, and that turns into a Godzilla reference. I'm not knocking it, I actually think Acts 2 and 3 are where the episode hits its stride. It's ridiculously fun just hanging out with everyone. It's their classic setup and then riff format. But my god do they have to gild the lily of this plot. Barely anything happens in this thing, and it's kinda glorious. No wonder they went for a big fight scene at the end with all these sitting around going on in this thing. This is fundamentally a Homer-Bart relationship story, but the emphasis is entirely on telling funny jokes rather than getting deep about their father-son bond. Like, think about their two big confrontations. First, they go for this impressively dramatic and over-the-top Virginia Woolf homage. Love the way that Homer leers at Bart with that brandy glass. Then we get this scene, where Bart tells his ex-father that he was faking it the whole time. God, the context of this joke is so dang weird. It always gets kind of a bewildered laugh out of me. Comparing Homer and Bart's dysfunctional father-son relationship to bitter exes is a choice. But just sticking to homages and metaphors helps keep things breezy and fun after that Act 1. Not every episode needs to hammer home that emotional angle so much. If you want something more balanced, go watch Saturdays of Thunder from the previous year. I think keeping things light was an especially good call here when you have Peppy in the equation. This is a story that could have taken yet another depressing turn, since Homer is just using Peppy to get back at Bart. We'd all be saying, remember that time Homer emotionally manipulated an orphan? Like, if Peppy were portrayed with deeper vulnerabilities and bonded with Homer more, this story wouldn't be any fun. That's one of the big problems with a certain season 31 episode. With Peppy, they only emphasize how underprivileged he is, that Homer can provide a fun respite that he values. This is a vacation for him. Sure, he does say, "I love you, Papa Homer," but it's hard to take this bond that seriously when Homer immediately calls him Pepsi. Fundamentally, Homer and Bart are both abusing a system, but thankfully no one is truly getting hurt. Well, except for Homer. It's kind of a strange choice for The Simpsons to end with this prolonged fight scene. What is this, a Family Guy episode? But I think it works well here, especially for such a chill, sedentary story. They even set it up in Act 2, when Tom first hears about Bart's father. Homer did start this whole feud with Bart. We're supposed to side more with Bart in this story, so beating the ever-loving crap out of Homer is cathartic. I absolutely love the gritty Street Fighter ending setting, resulting in Homer's hilarious fall backward over that hydrant. Add this to that list of animation cells I wish I could own. They end up going with a very conventional resolution, where Tom and Peppy walk off into the sunset together. I like how super obvious it is, how they tease us with them saying goodbye to each other like idiots before Bart brings them together. I admit, I've always wondered whether this ending would be even funnier if they don't get together, that they just say, well, goodbye, and abruptly leave. There is this unspoken nonsense to the plot with the Bigger Brothers organization that for some reason they were saving Tom for Bart. When Peppy is right there, all destitute and everything, why do you people hate Peppy so much? This is such a screw the audience setup that we're all just waiting for them to meet. Not getting them together might have been a funnier gut punch and made a more satirical point about how Peppy is treated. I feel like if this were produced in season 5, they might have attempted it. I don't know, I feel torn on this point. What does everyone else think? I think the story is so light and frivolous as is, they could have gotten away with it. Speaking of getting away with something, I suppose we should circle back and talk about Lisa. Personally, I've never been especially impressed by this B-plot. It's not bad or anything, but by classic era standards, it's not that memorable. I dig the core concept, as odd as it might seem for Lisa. She's never been portrayed as particularly boy-crazy or prone to crushes, but at the same time, I hate when Lisa gets pigeonholed into only rational and brainy issue stories. It's refreshing seeing her deal with an addiction, trying to overcome this childish urge. These 900 numbers were everywhere in the 1990s, constantly advertised in these comic books and kids' magazines and whatnot. Even The Simpsons did those sports betting and crusty hotline jokes in earlier episodes. If it weren't a Corey phone service, something else would have gotten her. I love the observational jokes about how inane the phone recordings are, with Corey reading the news and rhyming with allegory. Man, these phone services were stupid. I wonder how many the writers called to do research for this thing. My favorite joke is definitely Lisa's reaction to Marge's crush on Bobby Sherman. I will admit here, I have absolutely no idea who Bobby Sherman is. I assume he's some square from the 60s. I don't even want to know. Everyone in the comments, don't tell me. It's funnier to me wondering why he is so embarrassing. Lisa's laugh is so infectious that she just can't get over it. Bobby Sherman is a regular Rory Calhoun. My main knock against this B-plot is that it doesn't go anywhere that exciting. It's fun seeing Lisa sneak a few phone calls and get caught. This sequence with the sound effects is pretty neat. But this ending with Lisa asleep with the phone always felt limp and unsatisfying. I feel like Bart listening to one of Homer's stories. Lisa had a problem, she overcame it, the feel-good story of the year. There's no energy to this B-plot. It doesn't balance the main story very well. It's more sitting around, in an episode already full of sitting around. That's probably one of the reasons why Brother from the Same Planet is one of those rare classics that I haven't revisited that often. In my brain, it was that sort of low-energy story with a bunch of bizarre moments and jokes. But I don't know, after a rewatch, I think I was sleeping on this episode too much. I do still think that it starts out pretty slow, but Acts 2 and 3 are essentially one memorable joke after another. It's season 4, this is what they're good at. Even the sleepiest plot is going to be crammed to the brim with laugh-out-loud moments. There are so many jokes where I was like, oh wait, this was from this episode? Of course this odd duck would be the one with the psycho house, it fits right in. Of course this is the one with the Ren and Stimpy homage, why wouldn't it? I actually feel kinda dumb for occasionally skipping this episode. I don't know what my problem was. I mean, sure, I would still rank this as a below average season 4 episode, but that's like saying something is a below average hot fudge sundae. Yeah, maybe the balance isn't quite right, or it's already melted in the middle, but it's still frickin' delicious.